In 1970, I believe it was 72, we saw a cow-calf pair at the Midland Fair, Midland Empire Fair at Billings, and we're very impressed with that calf. And so then our breeding program started in the spring, and we bred to Gelbvieh, and our first calves were born in 1974. The Gelbvieh showed a lot more length and height and growth, things that these other breeds actually did not have. And so we soon zeroed in just on the Gelbvieh alone. The weaning weights were so much better. The mothers had the milk, you know, had the fertility. So that, I guess that was very helpful for us to know what direction to go with. And of course the ranch was set up with grass. There's, you know, you couldn't plow a good deal of what we have. We're in the rolling hills of the sweetgrass hills, so you've got to use the grass. Always appreciated the docility in the Gelbvieh cattle. We went to Germany in 1983, and it was obvious. You were in their home, you stepped out the back door, and you were in the barn. And they had all of these Gelbvieh cattle, you know, and stanchions. Probably just about a dozen. They were all small breeders, actually, when you come right down to it. And they milked these cattle because they were high in milk. And so if you've got cattle stanchioned, and every time you walk by them, they kick you, I believe for just natural selection, you're going to get rid of that animal. And so the docility, you know, was really in it. I have a picture of my youngest son, just had his arms around a heifer, around the neck. Well, it's actually a drainage in our area, but it has to do with oil and gas wells. It's actually what they call it, the kicking horse dome. And so that's where it originated. And this was one thing that we kind of discussed when we first decided that we would name the ranch, and that's what we ended up with calling the Kicking Horse Ranch. Now it is confusing. Now we say the Kicking Horse Gelbvieh Ranch because there were times that we were going to be taking Gelbvieh down to Denver to show, and when we wrote down Kicking Horse Ranch, we got back information. Oh, you have to have these Coggin tested. Well, that's a horse test, you know. So we have kind of tried to add the Gelbvieh in there so they would know that it wasn't horse ranch anyway. So our ranch is located only 8 miles from the Canadian line. In the early years, we went to a lot of the meetings in Canada, and a lot of Gelbvieh meetings actually too. I think probably one of the things that were the most leading was the fact that we had the first polled purebred Gelbvieh, and we called him, you know, KHR07T, but then he was called Polled Hawkeye. He came from the German breed, you know, Hawkeye. And so ABS, you know, bought him, and was very popular just because of the fact that he was polled. In '94, Kathy and her husband Jim came to the ranch, and Kathy was always very interested in the cattle as a child, and of course we didn't have the Gelbvieh when she was, you know, there, because she was our firstborn. And so they have been there now, and of course George is in an assisted living facility, so he is totally unable to do anything laboriously. So, but he did all of the AIing in the beginning. He was quite trained because in our area there was, you know, another one of those outbreaks with reproduction. It was Vibrio at the time. And so he took training to do the AI. So it just worked very well in the beginning when we only had the semen to work with. The thing that was an advantage for us in the wintertime when, you know, because we did the AIing, we had an idea what group of cattle are going to come at what time. And so we've been able to put them in the barn, and then we had cameras put into the barn. And so rather than having to go down midnight, which was my job, to see what was going on, we just turn on the monitor and we can see what's going, you know, what's happening. And of course, that's been an advantage because if we put them in a pen where we normally segregate them if they're going to calve, when you would go down to the barn and open a door, they would just quit as far as labor is concerned. You know, they just shut down. But when you can see them in a monitor way up, you know, at your home, they don't know you're even watching them, so they just continue on and have a successful birth much quicker, is what it amounts to. So we really appreciated the cameras. I have. Always before, there's about 2 hills that you had to get down to the barn and then 2 hills get back to the house, and about a week or 10 days of that, you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and pretty tired. I was on a genetic purity committee. I was co-chairman of that. And again, originally we were more interested in making sure that the imports were actually purebred or full-blood Gelbvieh. But as time went on, when genetic anomalies started to be involved, the AGA had a contract with Dr. Horst Leipold at Kansas State University, who actually specialized in getting these animals and diagnose them as far as what genetic anomalies they perhaps had. And also another person that we worked with was Dr. Keith Gregory, and that was at Clay Center. And so we got a lot of our information that way, and I really enjoyed working with them. I did a lot of correspondence, trying to track what information any of the semen sales people had, ABS, Universal, and I also communicated with Germany to see what records they might have, and just put all that information together for our committee, and it was very fulfilling for me. I really enjoyed working on that committee. I so enjoyed the cattle that my whole life has been. I've been married 60 years, and so since you know, 1974, when we dropped our first calves, I've just really enjoyed these cattle. I used to have a horse that I would go from pasture to pasture to just check on everything. And then the horse got too old for me, and then I was too old for a new horse, so I went to a four-wheeler. And today I go with a four-wheeler, and I talk to the cattle all the time. I don't know, there probably isn't anybody as dumb as I am when it comes to these cattle, because I talk to them. They might seem a little apprehensive, but when I say something to them, they come up and they lick my four-wheeler. I walk off and try to look at something, and when I turn around and come back, they're all around the four-wheeler. And you can give them range cake with your hand. Because I have such a passion for these cattle, I'm not going to give it up. It's my life. It's my life.